Hi, welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie writers on their journey toward publication. I'm Christina Catane, and I write in multiple genres, including Christian dystopian fiction.
I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
I'm Rhonda Hagerman, and I write fiction and nonfiction.
Thanks for tuning in, and for all of you listening live, a big thank you to all of our listeners on iTunes, any of our other platforms. There's a lot of them where we make our audio available. And for YouTubers, if you like what we do, remember to just like and subscribe below. And you can also go over to our website and sign up for a newsletter so you never miss an episode. So we like to start each podcast out with a little thing we call What's Up. And that's where we go around and we tell each other what's up in our lives. So I'm going to go down and across and pick on Jamie.
Oh, okay.
So go first.
Yes. Well, I'm going to report for my What's Up that being home so much has reawakened my desire to explore fermented foods. Also, Vicky, who we love Vicky, sent me a sourdough starter. So I was able to get that going, and that's proceeding nicely. But more importantly, I made this recipe called fermented corn relish, which, does not sound great.
No, it sounds delicious.
Love corn, and you put red pepper and onion in it, and it only takes 5 days for the fermentation to kick in. And so I'm very excited to have that today with my lunch. So that's my big What's Up for today. What's up with you, Rhonda?
Well, that sounds delicious. I'd like to try that too. So I'll be right there.
Right.
Well, actually, I have to wait till I move. I'm moving this weekend.
Yay.
I'm moving Monday, and I am so excited. I've got a new place to decorate, new projects to do, and my Pinterest board is just exploding. I am so excited to get started on these things, but I am exhausted. I am so tired physically. My shoulders, I cannot even lift my arms today. You will not see my hands all day.
Oh.
No.
Good thing you don't talk much with your hands.
Yeah, right.
Okay, well, I'll go next. Tomorrow is my 22nd wedding anniversary.
Congratulations. That's wonderful.
Thank you. So I have no idea what we're going to do about it. With everything shut down, and the Chinese buffet is not open yet. So I don't know what my husband would like to do.
Is that one of his favorites?
Yeah, he really likes the Chinese buffet. I get sick every time I go there, but I would go for him. And our favorite sit-down Chinese restaurant actually caught on fire. I don't know. Was it 2020? It seems like it should have been in 2020, the way this year's going.
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. And so we can't go there and get our Empress dinner for two. So I'm not sure what we're going to do yet. So that's
If I were a more creative person, I would brainstorm for you things that you could do to make this super memorable. Because, everything that happens this year is, that was the year that the whatever, however you're going to describe it. Mm-hmm. So it would be almost fun if you could just think of something to make it be like, oh, yeah, because of it was this way. But I'm not real good at coming up with that stuff.
You guys should go away to your camper, just the two of you. And don't tell anyone else that you're going there. Your brand new camper, just the two of you. No kids, no adult children showing up. No, just the two of you. Go do that. And then, cook there. Kind of seclude yourself. Of course, that would be great for me. I'm all about
I think that my daughter would figure it out the minute she saw our car.
I know.
They live on the campground, so.
Oh, but she's a good one for cahooting. You could have her in on it. She could have something he likes to eat ready on the stove, or I hope he's not listening. We should maybe.
No, I told him to go to work.
Oh, that works.
All right, let's look at the chat really quick. Our Sage says that what's up? It's freezing and my hands don't want to work. We were just talking off camera how beautiful it is in both Florida and Michigan, so we're really sorry, Sage. She did her first freelance ghostwriting gig this week, and it went live this morning, and the client wants more.
Wow,
That's
great.
awesome. Robin says at her what's up, a busy week of catching up on things. Tomorrow is Mom's birthday, so baking and decorating cake today.
Oh, happy birthday to Mom.
Yeah, a lot of anniversary greetings to you, Tina.
Thanks, guys.
Shell says, what's up? Writing every day. Good for you, Shell. Reading lots of fantasy for a summer reading challenge and loving that.
Nice.
So lots
Nice
of things
escape.
happening. My what's up is I really don't have anything to say other than the fact that there are no hairbrushes in my house. That was the most stress. Everything went smooth tech wise this morning. We had a little problem with Tina's headphones, but then figured out it was just a button that she'd push. But that's easy. Like usually we have like behind the scenes of everything went smooth this morning, except that my children have decided that Hide the Hairbrush from Mom is a great game to play, even though we have 6 hairbrushes in this house.
Also, you are getting a mosquito reprieve, you are saying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Anyone else? I don't know if it's the same thing, but here in Michigan, usually we are like inundated with mosquitoes. And I was sitting out in the backyard, laying there, kind of like leaning back and watching the clouds all go over as the sun was setting. Beautiful evening. My daughters came and sat with me, and all of a sudden we realized there weren't any mosquitoes. And I realized I haven't gotten bit once this year. It's kind of crazy. So enjoying that. I don't know what's going on, but I'm not complaining. That's for sure.
That's awesome.
If I was the singing type, I would break out into "Where Is My Hairbrush" by the VeggieTales.
Yeah.
Classic. It's a classic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, our topic for today is Art Imitates Life. It's a continuation of last week when we talked about trauma in our writing, and this week we're going to talk about joy in our writing. So does anyone want to take a swipe at why we wanted to cover joy specifically?
Well, I would like to say that I love happy characters.
Yeah.
My characters are alive and well in my brain, and they want to be happy. So I love scenes that are full of joy.
I think that sometimes we shy away from joyful scenes because we don't want, like last week we talked about the traumas and why you need traumas for your characters so they don't come off as Mary Jane characters, like everything's so great and like that. And I think that sometimes we're afraid that if we put too much happiness in our characters' lives, that it won't seem genuine. So that's why we really want to talk about that today.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it seems like a lot of those moments are kind of glossed over in books. Like you'll read about a birthday celebration or something, and it'll just be like, so the birthday party happened, and now we're cleaning up. And it's like, oh, you're kind of ripping us off of a moment to really see some interactions, whatever. We're going to get into the why soon. But it just seems like we tend to shy away from scenes that aren't happy. It's almost like we think like the news. If it bleeds, it leads. And it's got to have something traumatic or something titillating or sad or scary to make the reader interested. And really, that isn't the case at all. They want to live life with your character, which includes joys as well as bad things.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say you need to offer your readers hope and this happy, joyful moment of hope, of looking forward, so that you can snatch it away.
Yeah, that's very diabolical and very true.
Very true.
Because that's what keeps your readers interested and engaged.
Yeah. When I was a teenager and, all the Judy Blume, the just teenager books that were on when we were kids, I know, Jamie, you mentioned they used to gloss over the joys sometimes. Well, yeah, as soon as something joyful would happen in the book, like a boy would look at them or whatever, you knew that in the next page something tragic was going to happen, like the girl or something. So I started to dread when something good happened to the character.
That's a good point, Rhonda. That might inhibit you from writing joyful scenes.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say that you started to dread if a boy looked at you. I was waiting for you to say like, well, then I was so not into boys.
Because I knew the next day I would get a big zit.
I was going to say zit.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
Oh, mercy.
Okay.
Robin's complaining she wants to torture them for 300 pages. Hilarious.
That's
what?
Awesome.
I can't just torture them for 300 pages?
Well, it's part of the torture. That's part of the torture. You offer them hope, and then you snatch it away.
Yeah.
And then you just keep repeating that.
now I feel vindicated because I've been sitting here with Joy and Pain by Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock stuck in my head. And I'm like, all I can think about is Joy, pump it up, pump it. I'm like,
I
because
wanna rock
Joy
right
and Pain,
now.
yeah.
I'm Rob Bass, I'm here to get down. I'm
I'm
not
not internationally
known,
known. Okay.
but I'm known. I know the whole thing. We're the same generation. We are the same age.
There's a
Exactly.
time
I
I
feel
did that
so
where
old
you
right
had
now.
Oh man, if you haven't heard it, it's not a Christian song. So whatever. But the point is, they're complementary, and so you kind of can't have one without the other.
Right.
Kind of thing. So that's the why.
So the
It's like
purpose
a
of
good
trauma.
turtle.
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say it's like a good turtle. You've got your like a candy turtle. You got your salty and you got your sweet, and you need both. It's so delicious.
I
Snickers
was
bar.
like, "What's
It's
a bad turtle?" I was so confused. For
I
just
know.
a
I was
minute.
thinking the little green things. I was like trying to figure out what she was
Never.
gonna.
Ninja Turtle. Anyway, yes, I get it. I love turtles. They're delicious.
Okay. So the purpose of trauma in a book seems clear: to advance the plot or to help you develop your characters. But what is the purpose of happy experiences for your characters?
The purpose. Oh, well, we did say to set up the juxtaposition between happiness and sadness. So that's obviously, I would say, like the first one, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. Yeah.
All right. And then, like, there's a way, too, to fill in some of your character's backstory without being really info dumpy about it. So a happy occasion can be the opportunity to talk about maybe family relationships or drama within family structure or plot advancement in other ways. If you have to see a guy about whatever is going on, it can be at a wedding or at a baby shower or at some occasion that is very joyful. And sometimes it's just to really show a disparity between what your character is experiencing, and then they go into this environment where everybody is happy and joyful. And it can really paint a picture of isolation maybe for your character because, oh, nobody knows what I'm going through. They're all still having this happy time. It really just depends on, your plot structure and your genre.
It can also, in the same vein as that, like not wanting to be info dumpy, it can help you to set setting. It can help you to set you can give an idea of what time period they're in or what's going on by telling this story of something happy that's happening without having to say it was 9:00 on a Saturday night. You know what I mean? Like you can set it up that way by just telling a different story, and people don't even realize that you're giving them all this information about your setting and the things that are happening.
Yes, because you want to slip them into the world without telegraphing it to them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Maria says, sometimes it's about giving both the characters and the readers space. It gets overwhelming sometimes. If it's tragedy upon tragedy in quick succession, it gets overwhelming. I absolutely agree.
Okay.
It also helps with three-dimensional characters. I mean, nobody's entire life is just one tragedy after another, sadness and pain. There's even in the midst of tragedy, there are joyful moments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can tell that Wilfred Georges in the chat is going to be one of my favorites because happy, optimistic traits can help make the characters more likable too, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's what Rhonda likes. She likes happy, likable characters living happy, likable lives. Yes. Yeah. I love it.
I also use the happy moments to move my plot forward. Like when we talk about, I always call them disasters. But when you talk about your different plot points and that move your story forward, like the resolution of like the bad things that happen, that they have to come out of it, right? And Tina mentioned earlier about it gives hope. You have to give them hope. Like you can't just like have tragedies and all right, well that's the end. See you later. Like that. That's the end of the book. You have to like give them some sort of hope, and it might look different in different genres and under different authors, but that's where I write the joys in, is for like that, the kissing scenes.
And there's the reason why happily ever after is a thing, because we like that. We like those endings to stories.
Right.
We like a good resolution to a problem.
Exactly. So what are some of the pitfalls about writing your joys into your story?
Well, sometimes it can be all joy and no pain, which can make your character very sad and very flat. Well, actually very happy, but would they be happy if all they ever experienced was joy and good things? I think that they would not recognize their own happiness. Because I mean,
Ron-
how can you be grateful?
True. Rhonda, what are the pitfalls of putting?
It hurts. It hurts to make them hurt. Yes, it makes it just a very flat book. Yep. You need to have a reason to root for your characters.
Mhm.
Whether
You
like
want
it
to
or-
see them overcome, right? I mean,
Yep. And grow. Really, you can't have a complete character arc without pain.
well, the squeaky wheel gets the grease comes to mind. If you're in a room and and you're organizing, let's say, and you got, and you open this cupboard, and every time you open this one, creak, well, then you pay attention over there, right? All the cupboards that are good, don't have any trauma happening to them, you don't pay attention to those. So it gives a reason for the reader to be like, what happened now? Oh, and so the joys and the traumas, I think, both do that same thing. They just kind of make the reader sort of sit up and take notice that something interesting is happening here.
Right. Another pitfall I never thought about until just this moment actually is that you can make it the moments too unrealistically joyful to where your reader cannot relate to it, or that it makes your story just feel ridiculous. Like, say, for example, someone is having dating problems like throughout your whole book, and then all of a sudden at the very end, Mr. Right walks in the door and they get married and live happily ever after. No one's going to buy that. Like, there has to be, like, it has to be realistic and it has to flow with your story. So don't try to just throw in some sort of happiness at the end to justify all the traumas that you've put your character through. It has to fit the story. Would you guys agree
I
with
love
that?
that advice. I think that's amazing advice.
Well,
I
thank you.
would say too, if all you have is joy, you don't have a story.
Yeah.
Because to have a story, there has to be something to overcome. There has to be some tension.
Right.
Yeah.
And you need to watch last week's episode if you have not caught it, so that you don't think that we're talking all doom and gloom. We talked last week extensively about what dramas can be, and they're not all like death and dismemberment, right? So if you're kind of worried about the darkness of what we think you should have in your book compared to the joys, and go back and watch that episode. We
Yeah,
explain
it should
that better.
always be moderated by, who your audience is and what the story's about. So, for example, in those little romances Rhonda used to love, a zit would be a world-ending disaster. So,
Absolutely.
it always has to be moderated. But I have a question, just because, okay, we're going to get to the feeding of the back soon, the writing sprint. And today I noticed that I didn't really include a lot of, okay, like a joyful event happened in my sprint, but it was kind of like toward the end. So I didn't really get into a whole lot of like, she felt this or he felt that. And I don't even know that you always need to use a whole lot of words, or if you can set the scene and then let the reader just feel what they're going to feel. And if you've made it a joyful enough environment, will the reader just insert their own? So you don't have to try so hard with fancy description words of like, her heart fluttered in her breastbone or something like that. Like you don't have to describe the joy as much as you need to let the reader believe that your characters are experiencing it. Would you agree?
Yeah.
I think that's correct, and especially if it's sandwiched between some kind of disaster or trauma, then by contrast, that kind of pumps it up.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, because people are so ready for some kind of a happy release that they will inject happy feelings into an occasion. I don't know. I just kind of really felt like I sort of cheated the prompt, because I should have maybe started at the joyful event. So I would have had to take a crack at writing about joyful feelings and stuff like that. So that's why I thought it would be an interesting point to discuss.
If it makes you feel any better, I did worse than you. I didn't even get to the joyful part. You know
It does
it's
make me
coming.
feel better.
Well, you
Even
maybe.
with all that extra time we gave you?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I actually, you're gonna hate me because I use the extra time to write a cliffhanger. But anywho, we'll get to that later. I think that, like, so I'm looking back at some of the joys I've written and like my stories and stuff, because we really haven't talked about our own writing, like some examples of what we've done. But I know that, like, so there are a couple examples, like my book 4 that will be coming out hopefully later this year. There's just a really simple moment where they're decorating a tree together, a Christmas tree. And It does move the story forward, or only in the fact that you get to see these two. All of a sudden, there's like a clicking moment that's starting very slowly and subtly, without me having to say they looked in each other's eyes and realized they were more than they thought. No, like I'm just showing you, like through their actions. That's one way I've used it. Another way I've used it was, at the end of my books, with happily ever after. Um, you are happy at the end of Anna when you see the second couple get together. That's all I'm going to say, because if you hadn't read it, I don't want to spoil it. But when you see the second couple coming together, that is a really happy moment. But it's I don't tell you what that couple is thinking or what that couple is going through. It's all observed through the eyes of the other characters. So there's lots of different ways of doing it without it being like overly like with
Well,
all
I
the
see
happiness.
I see some chat that's kind of talking about what I was about to say, which is like, gosh, this episode was kind of important for me because I'm thinking like I can't even think about anything joyful that ever happens in anything I ever write. So I'm thinking this is an area where I could maybe improve or help to. So I'm really going to try to be a little more focused on helping those joyful moments to add tension and juxtaposition in my own work. Because I'm watching the chat over here, and it does feel very strange to just throw a scene of happiness in the middle of, I don't know, a shootout or an alien invasion or those kinds of things, right? But then I suppose we could talk about little joys that might be exciting to your character and maybe to nobody else. Maybe they got, their favorite tea smuggled through the embargo or whatever. And so they're celebrating this simple pleasure in their dystopian world. I don't know. But the point is, joys don't have to be out of character to your world or to the environment you've created for your characters to help.
Sage has something really good here. She said in a thriller, the joy would be those little breakthroughs when the main character finds a big clue or figures something out, or just a lighter moment between characters. Yes.
Yeah,
Like when you
because the
throw
word
in
joy is a big word.
right. When you throw in something comedic, right? And even in the middle of those, like something funny or just makes you kind of snicker. Like that's good. It helps your heart out when you're in the middle, especially like in a thriller where if it's one thing after another, like you might need a break, just like Maria had said earlier, like you need a breather so that you can
Yeah,
take
and
a
if you
breath
don't
from
give
it.
it to the reader, that's when they put the book down. They put the bookmark in and they get up to go do something else because they're like, I need a break from all of this consistent tension.
I heard a story once, and this is actually a true story about World War II. How on a Christmas Eve night, right around midnight, everybody stopped fighting, and they all were singing Silent Night. The
And they're different
the
languages
the enemy on one side and the allies on the other were all singing the same song together, and it lasted a few minutes, and then the battle started again. So, like, you can have those little moments right in the midst of the tragedy, the battle. You said an alien invasion. Maybe there's like a lull in the invasion and somebody's admiring the stars or something. It's just those little moments that you can stick in there that fit.
And I think specifically what we were talking about for this episode was your own personal joys and how to put them in your story. We really haven't touched on that a whole lot, but look at your own life and find something that just even a flash, something that just kind of made your day or just kind of switched gears for you. In my story in Esther, Avoiding Esther, um, anyone who reads it that knew my grandfather immediately knows that Reverend Albright is my grandfather, without a doubt. I've had a couple people read it like before I published, and they're like, "That is so your grandpa." But other people that read it don't know that. But I was able to take my experience of just observing my grandpa, his personality, how he treated other people, how his life was just so Christ-like in everything he did, even pumping gas. This man could not stop spreading Jesus's love no matter what he did. And I was able to take that and make it into a character. And I could have written that character lots of different ways. And I'm thinking specifically of the scene when he and John go into the church because he's looking for a piece of music, and John thinks this guy is going to, preach at him. And it wasn't at all that, because Reverend Albright just loved him where he was at and who he was. And so I was able to take my life experience with my grandpa, which so many positive memories, and make it into a character that I think really spoke to was like the opposite of the character John and what John needed to see it in order for his character arc to change. So there's one example.
Well, and I think, yes. And for me, the only thing that comes to mind is, you know, if I have a male and female character that have a destiny and they lock eyes, or the first moment you meet someone who you think might become significant to you, that's a moment that I have translated into my books from real life experiences. That's a joy. I've never written about the kinds of things I considered writing about for my work prompt. So I haven't included any of my personal joys into my published works yet.
But it's something you can see that you could do.
Yeah, sure, for sure.
And you can take experiences like that and apply them to other experiences.
Exactly, because they don't happen in a vacuum.
Right. So like that moment after you spend hours in painful labor when they place your little newborn in your arms, like that feeling, you can apply that to so many other circumstances, but you can like pull on that feeling to be able to connect with it, to connect. What would it feel like if you lost someone and found them again, for example?
Yep, it's awesome.
Okay. So is everybody said everything that they want to say? Are we ready for the feeding of the backs?
Yes.
Okay, so it is time for the feeding of the backs. And for those of you who are wondering what kind of crazy title that is, we get it from the word feedback. And we give each other positive feedback because we wrote for 15 minutes of a prompt and we had no time to plan and no time to correct or edit or fix our grammar. So this is unedited, and so we say only nice things. And so we're going to read out what we all did this. The prompt was, who wants to tell us what the prompt was?
We all know better than to volunteer for that. Oh, Jen's going to.
I don't mind volunteering for that because I have it right here somewhere since I did this pictures for it. All right, write a scene in which a character from your work in progress is experiencing a joy you or a loved one has experienced.
Okay, so that's very similar to last week's prompt, only it was a trauma. So I'm going to pick on Rhonda because she always goes last, and I'm going to make her go first.
Okay.
I'm just like that.
You are, aren't you? Okay. The warm. Okay. Mine comes from last week's sprint that I did. I was told by a certain mother of mine that I didn't work with her. So here is the rest of the story when she catches up. Okay. The warm little ball of fur snuggled into my armpit, forcing my eyes to pop open in a way my alarm clock can never do. This better not be what I think it is. I scowl inwardly, practicing my new habit of think first, then speak. My husband is standing over me, trying to stifle the biggest, goofiest grin, which means the thing he laid next to me is exactly what I feared. A new puppy. Oh, joy. My kids will be thrilled, but all I can think of is all the work they just signed me up for. We discussed this, I stage whisper through clenched teeth. Yes, and you said you'd rather not rescue this puppy, but I should do what I thought was right. Ta-da! He said with his best Vanna White flourish. It was definitely the right thing to do. At times, I forget I really have 3 children if I can include Tom's attitude instead of his chronological age. He's such a sucker for animals, and I can't fault him for that since it's one of the first things that attracted me to him. The little creature began squirming and made a little yawning squeal with its tiny voice. I tried not to look at it, but it was irresistible. I picked it up to examine it and immediately teared up. I looked at my husband and noticed his tears already on his cheeks. This little bundle of joy is identical to, maybe a clone of, or the reincarnated version of the puppy I loved so much as a child. The end.
Aww.
I love that.
That was very happy. It was such a happy moment.
Happy moments should always include puppies.
I love that she's like, well, I'm mad at him, but I also love him for being such a dope. I just love that dynamic. You know, it's like, oh, you big lovable oaf, get over here. Like, I like that kind of character. I love that.
Yes, my dad is an oaf for sure.
Aww.
Multiple kinds.
I don't know why. I guess I didn't really put 2 and 2 together that was a story from your life. So that's when you guys got a new puppy?
Yes.
Aww.
I've only met your dad one time, maybe twice, and I can totally see it. I can totally see your dad being
all the time, so it's not much of a chance.
Yeah, he brought pizza to us when we were at our writing retreat up in Rogers City.
And then we quickly wrote him dead in a story.
Yeah, wrote him out
I'm starting to
immediately.
regret that,
I know.
even though it was hilarious fun.
Hey, I don't want to get way off subject because I know we've already moved on, but we did have a question in the chat. I just want us to like look at real quick because Jamie is our expert on short stories. But Wilfred asked, "Joy can be hard for short stories, not always enough time or space. At least that's what I have trouble with. Any suggestions?"
Yes, I think that your short story needs to have a shattering moment, and that is the focus of your short story. And if anything happy happens to them along the way, that's great. But in a short story, your mission is to set up and make that shattering moment happen for the reader. That's what I would say.
The shattering moment could be a happy moment.
Could be.
Like I've written romantic shattering moments where they don't even realize that the person that like say like their best friend or whatever has had a crush on them the whole time. Then all of a sudden they realize, oh, you sent the flowers, and then the story ends. Something like that. So there's ways of doing it, but
yeah, a short story gives you a lot of Tina and I were just talking about the difference between writing short and taking on a novel, which I'm doing. And when you're writing shorts, you are a person with a relatively singular mission because you're not so worried about like subplots and subtleties and depth of character and things like that. The point is to get to the climax and the resolution in a manageable amount of time. So it's just a whole different animal.
good advice.
Okay, Rhonda, you want to pick the next person?
Sure. Let's do Tina.
Oh,
There you
okay.
go.
So I continued with my same characters from last week on this one. Priscilla staggered through the Union Army camp toward the triage tent. There were men lying everywhere, moaning, weeping, some wailing in agony. There was blood everywhere and things so horrific Priscilla's mind refused to focus on them. One young man lay on the ground, his eyes fixed and staring blankly into the distance, his blown-off leg clutched in his arms. Her stomach lurched and heaved, but it had been too empty too long to release any contents. She searched the sea of agony-twisted faces, and though they were blackened by soot, they were not the dark color she was looking for. One cot had a sheet that she guessed had once been clean and white, pulled over the face of the man on it. She approached, fighting the urge to turn and run. It could be Jeremiah. She reached out a trembling hand to grasp the edge of the sheet. Priscilla? She would recognize the deep voice anywhere. She spun around, and there he was, tall and strong, dressed in Union blue with a rifle slung over one shoulder. She didn't think she'd ever seen anything more wonderful in all her life than to see him standing there whole and intact with a puzzled expression on his face. Jeremiah, she cried and ran to him, flinging her arms around his neck and weeping tears of joy into his neck. Wow, that's a lot of neck. She felt him stiffen. He awkwardly patted her shoulder. "It's okay, Miss Priscilla," he said gently as he pushed her away from him. "Don't you worry about me, ma'am. I'm made from sturdy stuff." Ignoring the formal way he was speaking, she clasped her hands on his face and gazed into his deep, dark eyes. The fear she saw in them barely registered as she rose up on her toes and pressed her lips against his. She didn't care about anything else in the world, only that Jeremiah was alive, at least until she heard the gasps of the group of men behind her.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. Oh my word. You threw me into such a pit of despair at the beginning of that.
I know.
Ever get to the top of the mountain.
I agree.
He's clutching his blown off leg in his arms.
This is how Tina Catane writes joy.
I know. I keep picturing this battle scene with like the theme from A Summer Place. Do, 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 do. It's like, Tina, I think we crossed a wire. Joy this time. Joy. But then she got there. It was really a good payoff, Tina. I gotta say.
Yes.
Thank you.
Really, really enjoyed that.
Excellent. I love the Union blue with the rifle slung over the shoulder. It was just enough. You didn't have to say anything else. I love that. Very good description.
That's so good. I can't wait for this book.
Okay, who's next? Jamie, you want to go next?
Sure, I'll go next. Folsom stood on the water's edge, looking at a point on the horizon. Reese was worried his approach would startle, so he spoke in a low voice. You should come back inside. He glanced surreptitiously in the direction of the cabin where Laura labored. They'll send for you if anything happens. Folsom acknowledged the comment with a slight lift of the head, with a slight lift of the hand, his other lifting a clove to his lips. The silence felt thick to Reese, so he swept it away. I mean it. Things are kind of tense in there. You know how Salvador gets. I got nothing left to give them, Folsom said, dropping the smoke and crushing it underfoot. So that's it then? You're just going to leave all of these people without a sense of direction, without a leader? This challenge was met with still more silence. Reese fumed. What about everything you said before, about justice for those trapped in a world you could never imagine? Look, Folsom rubbed his jaw and shook his head. You're a nice guy and all, don't get me wrong, but you clearly have no idea what kind of stress I'm under. The well's not bottomless, man. I've got only so much fight in me, and I have a family to think of now. As if on cue, the sound of an infant's wail split the evening air, and Folsom disappeared, running hard and fast for the cabin. He was through the door in a flash. Reese followed without thinking. The baby, I heard it, Folsom said. Hush now, Mrs. Trinky replied. 3, 2, 1.
Love it. I got so into the story that I forgot we were supposed to be looking for joy in it.
I know. That's what I'm thinking too. Because I remember what you said about not adding it in.
Right.
But yeah, I was just engrossed in it.
Yeah, I love this story. I love this whole book. I cannot wait for you to be done with the editing of this book. And this probably, I'm going to guess, is not going into the book because you're already in the editing stage of it, but maybe. But
I really like him. He might live.
I know. Oh, good. Yeah, I really love this work. Yeah. Well done, as always, Jamie. I love it. But I see what you're saying, like you didn't really get to the joy. Yeah.
No, I mean, and then I wanted to start with like a new baby, but that's totally what I did last time, which I thought, well, how funny that it can be a joyful moment and it can also be a traumatic moment. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Definitely. Okay, Jennifer, it's your turn.
Well, I wrote similarly. We already talked about it earlier. So I'm just going to go ahead and read it. And you guys can judge for yourself. Dear God, please help me. Will wiped the sweat-soaked hair from Phoebe's forehead with trembling fingers. He had never felt so helpless in his entire life. It was his fault she was in this situation in more ways than one. But the fact that she was giving birth in the middle of nowhere in a dingy abandoned cabin was the one he would never forgive himself for. He felt her body begin to relax against his as the last contraction subsided. They were getting closer with each passing wave, but Phoebe seemed no closer to giving birth. I'm so sorry, he whispered against her cheek. She turned to look at him. For what? She snapped. For everything. For bringing you to the middle of nowhere. For not getting you to civilization before the baby came. For getting you pregnant in the first place. She elbowed him hard in the ribs. Stop being such a dolt. First of all, never apologize again for our baby. This child is a mistake on no one's part, least of all yours. I was there for the conception. Have you forgotten? Will smiled, relieved to see that his wife was not in so much pain that she was unable to tease him. Secondly, she continued, you didn't bring me here. I came willingly. Besides, how do you think that conversation would have gone if you'd tried to leave me behind? He kissed her soundly, both in affirmation that they both knew the conversation would not have ended well, and because at that moment he fell even more in love with his wife. Phoebe jerked away suddenly from his kiss and screamed in pain. Neither Will or Phoebe had ever witnessed a birth, and he wondered if she felt as helpless as he did. Something's wrong, she breathed, still tense with pain. I know, my love. You're in a lot of pain, but this is God's plan. All women must suffer it. No, Will, she cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. Something is very wrong. You'll have to look. The battlefields of France had done nothing to prepare him for this. But he laid her gently back and lifted her skirt. Will had never seen birth, but he had seen blood. A lot of blood. And even though he was no expert, he could see his wife was correct. Something was definitely wrong. 3, 2, 1.
Ah! Lies. 3, 2, 1 happened like two sentences ago.
Yeah. I cheated.
And then she did this to us on purpose with her extra time.
Like I know where it's going, and there will be joy, but yeah.
The extra 2 sentences were worth it. I love the extra 2 sentences.
Thank you.
What'd you say, Rhonda?
She was way nicer in labor than I was. I could a kiss. They were kissing. Nope. That's what started it.
Of course, it's a sprint. And this is Phoebe we're talking about here. So when I go back to edit, it probably will be a lot more of her sauciness for sure. Involved.
I thought it was perfect because the way I see it, she knows she's got like 2 minutes to snap out whatever she's going to say before she's like, I can't talk again. And she gave like really kind of clipped answers. It seemed to really fit with the pace of the scene. I thought that the dialogue was handled very well.
Thanks. I don't know that this will ever see the light of day because I'm not sure. I don't know that I ever saw Phoebe and Will having kids. I mean, like, I don't know. Like, I don't.
know, right?
Their story is very different from her sister's.
I know
story.
that's why Sage wasn't in that bed having a baby because I don't even know, like, you know, I don't even know if y'all are getting a happily for now. This doesn't have to be a romance.
And you don't mean Sage Gordon Davis.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I don't.
At first, that's her character's name, but when she said Sage, I'm trying to see if Sage had made a comment, and I was like, what? And then I remembered, oh yeah, that's right, that's your character's name.
All right, that was great, ladies. So if any of you do the sprint, please make sure that you post it on social media and tag us in it so that we can read it because we really love to do that. And so now it's time to transition again into the thing that we call What's Next. And that's where we all go around and tell everybody what's next. And Sage isn't getting a baby either.
Sorry.
So this Sage. I get you. All right. Who wants to go first with the what's next? Let's start with Jennifer since she went last on the reading her.
Oh, good. I heard the just sound and I thought it was me.
I think she said Jamie. Go ahead. Just kidding. So it's going well. Actually, I've been doing really well with the editing. I've been to office hours every day, even if I couldn't stay the whole time. And the book is coming along. Like, no complaints here. It's just work, right? Editing is just hard work, especially a book that started off so poorly. Again, a reminder, if you're new to the show, I wrote this book first, and then in the middle of it, I decided to write another book before it, and then I decided to write a prequel to the whole series. So like now it's book 3 of the series, but it's like Jen is a writer several years ago, so it's rough, but it's getting there, and I don't want to give up on the story. First of all, because I wrote an entire series around it. Second of all,
no small thing.
Also, because I just really love these characters. So I fall in love with them more and more every time I open up and start editing. So it's getting better. And so what's next is just more editing. I don't have a whole lot to report. Hoping to get a few more chapters done this next week and that I can be proud of. So what about you, Tina?
I'm in the same exact boat as you with the editing and it being, I started my novel 10 years ago and then I rewrote it. When did I start rewriting it? Like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So it's a lot of old writing and editing that I have to go through. So it's just hard work. But I seem to be progressing a little bit quicker every day. So I'm happy about that.
That's good news. It's almost like when we do our writing sprints, editing sprints, I think should be a thing too, because I feel like I get better with the editing every time too, if I do it every day.
Yeah. Okay. What about you, Jamie?
Oh, I knew you were going to call me next. Actually, things are going very well. I'm just really, I'm really inclined to like be down on myself. And I have come to the realization lately that it's okay that I am basically a slow person. I like to move at a very slow pace. And I've had this revelation recently that my whole life I've been rushed along. Hurry, faster is better all the time. And I've been feeling this strange, bad way because I'm not churning out this novel in something like 30 days. Like, I'll say it again, comparison is the thief of joy. If you cast your eyes about and you look how fast, I don't know, Sidney Sheldon or somebody can churn out a novel and you're like, why can't I be like that? All you're doing is making yourself sad. So I've just been like, fine, I'm slow. So my book might take 300 days instead of 30 days. It's going to be the best work that I'm capable of doing, and I'm just embracing that. That said, I am in a hurry to get these books to market. So I'm trying really hard to balance the desire to be finished because I want these stories out already, and my need to just go slowly so that I know that the writing is what I want it to be. It's very, very tricky.
I say err on the side of slow because yeah, your stories are so good. And so I want it to be the best that yours can be because I know it'll be amazing. So if that helps you at all.
Thanks. It's just more or less, I had to be okay with the fact that I'm just not fast. I don't understand why in my head faster is somehow good. I suppose if you're talking about, well, what makes financial sense and what's going to ping the algorithms and blah, blah, blah. But we've already talked about the fact that I'm not going to be able to be the traditional launch strategy because, well, first of all, I'm multiple genre. So that makes things a little tricky as far as my branding and things like that. So if I'm not traditional anyway, if I can't take the straight and narrow path to success, I might as well just carve out my own way, however kind of a way. And whether I make $1 or not is going to be irrelevant. I just want to put out a book that I would want to read.
I'm just glad you're excited about writing again because you got too much talent to not do it.
I was really ready to just hang it all up.
I'm glad I'm with Rhonda. All right. In our chat, Sage Gordon Davis says, I'm still trying to get a handle on freelancing. Lots of changes will have to happen. And I don't know where that's going to lead me, but I'm here for the journey.
Hang in there. Hang in there.
Shell says, what's next? My daily writing exercises with the 100-day challenge and more fantasy reading.
Nice.
Robin, what's up? Snow White things and beta reading for a new client.
Good.
So lots of things going on.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, Rhonda, I almost forgot your name for a minute. This is what happens when you get older. Yeah, it is right there. And I was still grasping for it.
If you ever forget her name, you just have to ask God, help me, and then Rhonda will help you with it. And
You're
your name.
What's next with you, Rhonda?
Okay, what's next with me is this weekend is going to be full of packing. The last week has been all packing. Monday, I'm going to have everything into the new place. And then Tuesday, I'm so excited. I've got a schedule set out. My bullet journal has been neglected for like the last 3 weeks, and I feel completely lost. So I'm just excited to get back into the swing of things and into a schedule. And I'm just dreaming of all the things I'm going to accomplish.
That's
awesome.
amazing.
Yes.
You're much like me, Rhonda. I've realized that I used to think that I hated systems, but what I don't like is conforming to somebody else's system.
Yes, right.
If I come up with a system myself, I follow it and I'm perfectly happy. But if I'm like assigned, here's how to accomplish, then I get all like, no. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. Don't tell me what to do. Okay. So if everybody's done and all hearts are clear. Sorry, that's a little inside joke. This concludes the Christian Indie Writers Podcast. So until next time, may your pen be prolific, may your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ. Bye-bye.
Bye.